What's going on, guys? This is the Red Rogue, and today we'll be taking our first look at the level 10 Mythic Plus affix for Shadowlands Season 1 dungeons, Prideful. This one is pretty interesting and might remind you a little bit of a certain voodoo death god that we're familiar with. So let's take a look at the Prideful affix. Mythic Plus dungeons received a bit of a change in Battle for Azeroth, where every patch of the expansion would have its own Mythic Plus season, much like raid tiers or PvP seasons. Blizzard decided this would allow for an affix unique to each season that was roughly inspired by the patch's theme. For our first tier of Shadowlands, that affix is Prideful. This is still a very new implementation of the affix, so it's possible this could be tweaked or things added to it in the future. Another quick mention is that I'm doing some changes to the video format a bit, so there will be a pinned comment with any and all information that I thought of while editing this because I'm a hamster brain and instead I usually try to just cram it onto the screen on a text bubble, and that's kind of annoying to look at, so yeah, time for changes. Okay, so Prideful. This affix is most likely inspired by the Venthyr Covenant for a couple reasons. One, the first raid is in Castle Nathria, which is in Revendreth, the home of the Venthyr. 2. The Venthyr are the Covenant that basically works like the Reform Center for really crappy souls who might be able to be redeemed, so it makes sense that you would kill a manifestation of pride for thematic purposes. It's also really frickin' red. I don't know if that counts as a reason or not, but the Venthyr seem to really like red, and the Kyrian really like bluish white or whatever, and the Night Fae really like bluish purple, and then the Necrolords like green, so yeah, I'm counting that as a reason too. Okay, so that's all well and good and all, but what does it do and how does it work? The closest thing I can compare Prideful to is kinda sorta like the Reaping affix from Season 2 of Battle for Azeroth. The reason I make this comparison is because for every 20% of ad count that you kill in a Mythic Plus dungeon, you will spawn a manifestation of pride, whereas Reaping just spawned a ton of ghosts from the things you killed instead. What makes Prideful different from Reaping is that this singular manifestation of pride has a couple of its own special mechanics, as well as a nice surprise waiting for you after you defeat it. So you'll notice basically as soon as the manifestation of pride is spawned, you will start taking AoE pulsing damage that starts to hit pretty hard. This is unavoidable damage, so some personal healing might be necessary eventually, especially if you get clipped by the manifestation's main mechanic. One person in your group will get a glowing red debuff on them, with 4 arrow-like things pointing in an X or plus shape from their body, however you want to look at it. When this debuff expires, a blast will shoot out in 4 directions from that player. The blast seems to have a piercing type effect, so it'll hit anyone in line with it. Not only does it do a pretty beefy amount of damage, but it also stuns you for 2 seconds, which can be really bad depending on the pull you are making when you kill enough trash for it to spawn. The trickier thing about this ad is that it seems to gain a stacking damage bonus for every single one of those red pulse AoEs that he does, meaning you will need to kill him quickly before his damage starts to ramp up out of control. This could potentially become a bit of a headache on Grievous weeks, where it will be likely that you are knocked down below 90% health whenever this AoE pulse goes out. There was originally a data mined effect that 4 seconds after the death of the manifestation of pride, it would cause some crazy big AoE hit to go out that could hit you and enemies, but that doesn't seem to have made it to beta as we've killed it quite a few times in multiple keys and I've never noticed any AoE going out or anything by standing near it after it was dead. The real benefit of this affix is that upon defeating a manifestation of pride, you will gain a nice meaty 30% damage bonus for an entire minute. Meaning, with ideal pulls and add percent calculating and possibly some skipping of trash, you will definitely want to try to kill this at good boss locations / trash pulls throughout your Mythic Plus run for the most effective use of the damage buff. This alone makes Prideful a very impactful seasonal affix, which is the point Blizzard tries to get across when making these temporary affixes for us to deal with in dungeons. Honestly, Prideful is a pretty fun affix and makes you think about when and what you're pulling so as to maximize the effective usage of the damage buff. The ad does hit pretty hard after a while, so you'll definitely want to avoid his big spread shot hit every time it comes up as it'll chunk you for a lot of your health. Compared to other affixes in the past of Mythic Plus, this one doesn't have quite the same level of freedom as, say, Awakened, but it's honestly a pretty good introductory affix for the first part of the expansion, which is when we'll be at our lowest power level for the entire expansion, so that 30% damage buff is a pretty nice boost. Remember, this is still a pretty new introduction to the Mythic Plus scene and to beta in general, so it's entirely possible the way this affix works will change in the future. I plan on covering all of the Mythic Plus changes and new affixes in various videos over the coming months, especially as we start seriously prepping for Shadowlands. What do you folks think of the Prideful affix so far? Personally, and this is just an opinion I have about seasonal affixes in general, I don't think they should be the level 10 modifier to a key, even if it is a good/fun affix. Prideful honestly seems like a fun and potentially useful/strategic affix, and this might sound backwards to some, but I think that it should be the level 2 affix on any mythic keystone, and here's my reasoning why. Most seasonal affixes have a learning curve to them, and it can be very punishing to step into a +10 keystone for the first time and literally have no clue how to handle an affix. That just doesn't happen with things like quaking, or bursting, or anything else. I mean, being a seasonal ability, it should be something that's on all keys, where it's something you deal with on a regular basis for the entire season, regardless of if you're a person who does 30s or 20s or 10s or 5s. It also doesn't help when you're first trying to get into those higher level keys, and people will probably just bring someone that they know has already done it instead of letting someone have a chance at learning it, which is very counterintuitive. Again, that's just my opinion on that whole seasonal affix thing. I do like the concept of them, but I feel like they should be introduced a lot earlier on because it just doesn't make sense to ruin a high-level key just because you've never seen the affix before. I don't know. Sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent. It's just something that's been on my mind for a while. I hope you folks enjoyed the video. If so, any likes, comments, or subscribes are supremely awesome and or charming things you could do, as they really do help the channel grow and reach a larger audience who might be interested in these Shiba shenanigans. If you haven't seen the channel before today, I'd like to welcome you to check out some of my other videos. I cover a variety of WoW-related things, however, for class-specific stuff, I'm pretty much all rogue all the time. I do new uploads every weekday as well, so I should hopefully have something on a regular basis that might pique your interest. Thank you all so much for watching. This is the Red Rogue, and I'll see you guys around.